Welcome back, and we are getting ready for round two here in the Alpensee Anniversary Tournament. This is their first anniversary, and Alpensee, the pronunciation might elude me there, but they are hosting weekly limitless tours. Uh, it will be probably Regulation I in the coming weeks until we have an official switch to champions. So to let people prepare for Prague or other tournaments coming up. But I am joined here as previously by Costa Daidimos. How are you feeling today, Costa? Are you happy?
I am very happy. I'm here, of course, doing our first Champions tournament, casting with you. We've got the lovely folks of Alpensee with production going, sponsors, Code Centric, you name it, and also the evil Schmon with the trivia questions earlier as well. But that's fine. We're totally over that. That's all good. It's in the past. It's fine. But no, we've got more action for you, lovely folks. Something to also note as well is the first actual Alpensee tour was hosted on Limitless at the 3rd of April last year. So this is the first anniversary since then. And our current account, of course, is just 1 week after. But no, we're looking forward to it. A lot of action. But we've got more trainers as well to boot. We're going to be featuring Fabian Braun versus Yuna.
And Fabian Braun has some great results. He has finished top four in Stuttgart Regional Championship in 2025 and finished it with the top eight in Frankfurt this season. Here we see Fabian named Baked running that Mega Gengar set without the substitute but with Icy Wind. Basque Legion, Mousehold, Incineroar. We see another Como and also the Rotom Wash supporter, which has been pretty common in this first few days of competing I've seen.
Yeah, exactly. It's just got really good ability, as Rotoms definitely do. No longer weak to ground types because of it, and it's electric typing, of course. But it's a very well placed going into certain teams, especially weather-based ones like rain, for example, or even sun. You're able to resist and whatnot. But in this particular scenario, you've got offensive Rotom to an extent mixed in with that support element of Will-O-Wisp. But over on Yuna's side, we've got weather, but a different kind. That is sand. It's going to be the Extra Drill Focus Sash with the Mega Tita, Corviknight, Sneasler, Volcarona, and the Mega Meganium, which I am so pumped for us to be able to feature.
I'm really excited to see this Meganium as well. The Gengar is running Sludge Bomb, so it needs to be careful for not taking that Sludge Bomb from the Gengar. And the Gengar I think it looks pretty okay for Baked, but that Meganium is running Synthesis instead of that Fairy type Dazzling Gleam. Not being able to hit the Como, not really being able to hit the Incineroar either with anything but resisted damage. So I think the Meganium might be left on the bench for this game, and Yuna might prefer the Tyranitar to have a super effective hit on the Gengar and the Basque Legion. That is just my expectation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair thought because, like you said, the Gengar is such an offensive threat for it. And that sort of invites Yuna to maybe opt in for that sand mode. And then there's also that awkward moment where you need to acknowledge Tomo-O being really good going into your sand core. So, talking about that, I was going to mention Corviknight could be an option in order to bring against the Tomo-O. And who would have thought Yuna's led with Corviknight and Meganium versus the Gengar and the Rotom Wash?
So immediately we can see that I was completely wrong and I have no idea what I'm talking about because the Meganium is out on the field here for Yuna and no Como in sight. The Rotom Wash threatening a lot of damage on the Corviknight potentially, while the Gengar is really threatening to that Meganium with the Sludge Bomb that it runs.
Yeah, and it's in a really good spot to be able to do so. Rotom Wash probably brought as a way to be able to deter the sand mode from Yuna's side. You're obviously immune to ground types, but you've also got the option of going for the Will-O-Wisp, as we do see the Mega Gengar now have the Shadow Attack available due to its Mega Evolution.
My question is if the Pokemon on Yuna side will still be able to switch. I don't know how that mechanic actually works, but here we see Gengar going for Shadow Ball, and it's not the Sludge Bomb, so completely ignoring that Meganium and going straight for that Corviknight. Corviknight hanging on through a Volt Switch here.
Yeah, giving a lot of respect to the Corviknight makes the most sense because, like you said, Marcus, the Meganium is sort of checked in a way by that Gengar. And to add information to the interaction of the Mega Evolutions, Yuna had the option of switching their Pokemon out as the Mega Evolution-based Gengar wasn't already in play with the Shadow Tag ability. So you could do that before, you can no longer do that now from this turn onwards by the end of this turn. However, Tailwind has been set up. The little Burby is not only very useful, but it could also be very powerful against the Como-O that we're going to have to see Fabian really respect going into this.
And I think the Como is looking very strong, but this is where kind of Yuna wants it, because Yuna needs to land a Brave Bird into this Como to be able to deal with it elsewhere, because Yuna does not have an easy way around this Como without the Dazzling Gleam on that Mega Meganium. Meganium now, in Tailwind, will probably be faster than that Mega Gengar, so maybe he can land a Weather Ball after Mega Evolving into that Mega Gengar. But will that be enough to knock out? That is the question. Because if Yuna will be able to take out the Gengar, then maybe the Meganium can put in a lot of work for them in the later rounds of this game.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a double into that slot, which Bait was able to absolutely call, given the respect on this field. The board state would suggest that to be the case. And yeah, we have the focus onto it, which allows this Como-O to go on the offensive, Aura Sphere, picking up the KO onto the Corviknight. So even though the Tailwind has been set up, this is a very difficult situation for Yuna, given the fact that they don't really have something that could automatically checkmate the Como-O, since they've lost the flying type super effective moves against it, now in favor of the Excadrill.
And now Excadrill in Tailwind will be able to threaten an Earthquake on the Como and the Gengar simultaneously. So the question is, if Meganium goes for Weather Ball and the Excadrill goes for Earthquake, there is a very safe switch into that Rotom for Fabian here. And I think Yuna needs to preserve this Excadrill to be able to hit that Gengar hard, and also being able to land a neutral hit into the Como. But here we see the swap from Fabian. I expect this, the Rotom coming in here. If the Meganium has gone for Solar Beam, then this could be a great play. But no, we see the Earthquake come out first from Excadrill, landing into the Como.
Yeah, not dealing very effective damage onto its partner, Meganium, due to the grass typing. The Solar Beam, is it going into the Gengar slot? It's generating all of the light, and thanks to the Mega Soul, it's going to be able to execute within the same turn, but not onto the slot of which Gengar was, but dealt so much damage onto the Como-O, trying to retaliate with an Aura Sphere, brings the Excadrill down to its Focus Sash. 1 hit point remaining. However, the Rotom has been able to be brought in for free.
And now we see the value of that Tailwind and also the Focus Sash on Yuna's side, because the Excadrill will now be able to perform another attack and get to another move to threaten the knockout on this Como. The ability on Mega Meganium lets it fire off Solar Beams in one single turn instead of that 2-turn that Solar Beam usually takes. And that makes Meganium so threatening into that Rotom in this situation.
Yeah, as the Rotom respects that, goes for the Protect. It wants to make sure that the Tailwind is no longer in effect in order for it to be able to take advantage of the board state, as Como-O is now down. It wasn't able to get a Clangorous Soul set up in order to allow itself to maybe have the speed creep over onto the Excadrill outside of Tailwind or Sand conditions. But Bait now in a spot where he does have the Gengar that could be bringing in right now in order to lock Yuna down in terms of not being able to bring that Tyranitar in straight away.
And I think it makes sense to have the Tyranitar in the back, but there's also potential for the Volcarona. Volcarona can keep the Meganium safe from the Sludge Bomb on Mega Gengar's side, but there's no way to switch out when Gengar has now made the field and Shadow Tag locking the Meganium and Excadrill on the field.
Yeah, and this is exactly what you want to be able to do in order to make sure that the Mega Meganium is locked in. The Excadrill can't benefit off of, essentially going for outspeed potential, but the double protect attempt from the Rotom is gonna fail. Icy Wind, even though risky with the chance of missing, is able to ensure you pick up the Excadrill, you can lower the speed, and deal, most importantly, chip damage onto this Meganium, as the Gengar is not threatened directly at all as a Solar Beam. It's going to be going into the Rotom, which failed to protect and will get absolutely one shot straight out of here, bringing the board to a 2 versus 2 state.
And now it comes down to this. What is in the back for both of these trainers? Here is Bascule Legion, and with the Choice Scarf, it will threaten a huge damage on anything here. But we see Sneasler coming in for Yuna, and being able to get rid of this Gengar fast is not looking like an option for Yuna right now.
Yeah, this feels really locked in because the Sneasler, it only has access to Close Combat, Diaclaw, both of which Close Combat is completely void against the double ghost types that Baked has on the field, but the Diaclaw as well, it's going to be hitting for mostly ineffective on the Gengar and not very effective on the Bascule Legion, as we're not even going to be able to see it have the opportunity to get any damage off. The Bascule Legion picks it straight out of this game 1, and we got the white towel popped in for this game 1. Baked, your winner moving into game 2.
And the double ghost types in the end game felt so good because there was no Tyranitar from Yuna. And even if there was, the Bascule Legion could still go for its water type attacks to hit that Tyranitar. So I think very well executed game plan from Baked. As an experienced and seasoned player, I'm excited to see if he can bring it back with the same game plan for game number 2.
Yeah, and like you said, he sort of had a plan, and he was able to execute it quite nicely. The early game scenario, I feel like Yuna had a very big disadvantage bringing that Mega Meganium option as a lead because of the Gengar not only being able to, just hit it for extremely effective state, but also the fact that it locks everything in. So Yuna has a bit of a slight disadvantage in terms of matchups, but needs to really respect that and not kind of like respect the fact that Coma O won't be brought as a lead. It will be brought in the back. So you should be okay to start going on the offensive, maybe even with a Tyranitar Corviknight lead as a game 2. And there it is.
Here we see game 2 already going, and the Tyranitar is on the field. We don't know if it will Mega yet, because there might be a Meganium in the back still, because Tyranitar, even in its regular form, non-Mega evolved form, will set up that sand weather for its partners, and that's so valuable to that Excadrill, because we saw how much pressure the Excadrill put on with the speed that it had, but Gengar being able to outspeed it really made it tough for Excadrill in this in the end game of that game number 1.
Yeah, and we might well actually see the exact same turn 1 play out with the double focus into the Corviknight, but that doesn't seem to be the case, as Bait respects the Tyranitar, Brin as a lead, switches the Coma O in, and we've got confirmation that the Rotom Wash is faster than both the Corviknight and the Tyranitar. It's able to connect with a Will-O-Wisp, now halving the damage output of this Tyranitar, which could have benefited off of going for a Protect alongside that Tailwind setup from the Corviknight spot. Knockoff will now forego the Dragon Fang item on the Coma O and dealing very, very negligible damage.
And now Como, yes, it will do slightly less damage with its dragon type attacks, but that is not what it's looking for here anyway. It threatens the Tyranitar with a heavy Aura Sphere, and I think neutral Aura Sphere will also be preferred into that the Corviknight if it were to attack this turn. I think Yuna has a position that they have to be pretty okay with, because now they can start landing Brave Birds into that Como slot. Speed is up, and now Yuna is has the faster Pokemon on their side.
Yeah, but this may give incentive for Bait to go on the defensive with the Como-O and try to go for the Volt Switch, start chipping damage down onto the Corviknight in anticipation of it, as we've got the Meganium switching in now for the Tyranitar, wanting to better position itself against the Rotom in the subsequent turn, which is on an absolute riot in terms of the disruption it is dealing onto Yuna's team, not going for the Volt Switch chip damage, opting for the burn. Is successful, and now halves the physical attack of the Corviknight as well.
And we can pretty confidently say that there will be an extra drill in the back. With Sand and Tailwind up, it will be the fastest thing. It will be the fastest extra drill we've probably ever seen, with a doubled speed. Quadrupled speed extra drill, really threatening to Baked. But there is a Como he needs to deal with. And with two of his physical attacks are already burned, and no Dazzling Gleam on Meganium, I think this might be a very tough Como to get rid of if he can't land that Brave Bird into the Como. We see the Gengar coming in, having Mega Evolved yet, so no one is locked into the field. Mega Meganium now Megaing, and clicking the Solar Beam goes straight into the Gengar.
Yeah, and because of the Mega Soul, it's going to be able to deal the damage within the same turn, dealing so much as well. Something onto a resisted Pokemon. Brave Bird focusing down on the Como-O, even if it's burned. I think that looks like a critical hit, and it is, because that damage makes no sense due to the burn. And Glendra's Soul actually is gonna fail because of the critical hit. This essentially means the Como-O has gotten 0 mileage this turn, which is crucial and not what Bait was taking into consideration.
And now this position is looking great for Yuna. If they can click Brave Bird into that Gengar, maybe it can knock out, and then you can also click Solar Beam into that Como-O, and that will cover for a switch to that Rotom or that Basculegion, as we saw. With a Tailwind up, the Basculegion will not outspeed Yuna's Pokemon. So I expect there to be Basculegion in the back, but right now, I think Yuna is in a position to at least threaten a double knockout. And that, oh, but here going for a switch, going into the extra throw.
Yeah, in anticipation of the Gengar going for the Mega Evolution, having Shadow Attack available, not allowing Yuna to be able to switch in the extra drill later on if there's any sort of passive play from Bait's side, which seems to be the case. Going on the defensive, making sure the board is set for taking advantage of. Brave Bird into the Como-O, picks up the KO. We have got our first KO of Game 2. It's going to be the Como, which essentially came onto the field, said hi, took a bit of damage, and said bye, because it did nothing else. And Yuna is now at a point where they may start being able to get another Tailwind set up, whilst, most crucially, directly threatening the Gengar, which is so good for them.
But now the Basculegion is coming in. The Excadrill will be the fastest thing on the field and will threaten a knockout on the Gengar. But the Rotom is such a safe switch in here, and the Basculegion is probably not threatened with a knockout. So the question remains to see if the Basculegion can get rid of that the Corviknight in time, so Corviknight cannot set up another Tailwind, because that Tailwind will be very valuable if the Meganium were to hit the field again.
Oh, as the Gengar is now in anticipation of the ground type move potentially coming out, switching in for the Rotom. No ground type move. Iron Head actually wanting to maybe fish out a bit of a flinch there or anticipate a switch in from Bake's side of the field. Wave Crash is not enough. 23 hit point survival in combination with a Tailwind now means the speed advantage is on Yuna's side. There is no Shadow Tag on the field, and the sand has now subsided as well. So, full speed control in Yuna's favor.
And Yuna now can go into Mega Meganium in any of the slots, but I suspect Yuna will protect the Excadrill to keep it on the field, and then go into Meganium with her or their Corviknight. So I'm completely mistaken. Here comes the Meganium for the Excadrill, and taking the Wave Crash from the Bascule Legion.
Oh, which still deals a lot of damage onto a Pokemon that's supposed to be able to resist it. Shows how powerful the adaptability Bascule Legion is. Brave Bird going into the Bascule Legion will be able to bring it down to 73 hit points whilst being able to survive on 3 hit points, but not for long, as the Volt Switch will finally bring the Steel Iron Bird down, bringing Yuna now to the point of 3 Pokemon available, and most crucially, we have got the pivot action going for that Rotom, which doesn't want to be able to face that Mega Meganium, because we saw in Game 1, was able to pick up that raw one-hit KO onto.
And this has been incredible positional play by Yuna. Now the Meganium is able to outspeed the Bascule Legion, and the Gengar does not really threaten the Tyranitar with a knockout just yet. So the Tyranitar being so healthy as it is, now completely shutting down that Gengar. If Yuna can now deal with that Bascule Legion with her now with her Meganium and Tailwind, I think they have a winning position.
They may well, and they do have to factor in the speed interactions. This is a choice Scarf Bascule Legion. Even though Tailwind's been set up on Yuna's side of the field, some Tyranitars aren't built for speed, they're built more for Bolt. So there is a scenario where Bascule Legion might be able to outpace the Tyranitar, pick up a KO there, and then conversely, the Gengar would be able to try to position himself or go on the defensive, but that's not going to be the case. We've got the Bascule Legion switching up now for the Rotom and Gengar, not wanting any of this heat.
But can the Bascule Legion outspeed the Meganium? That would be the question, because if Meganium is the fastest thing on the field, faster than Gengar, and faster than Bascule Legion, goes for the Solar Beam, straight into the Rotom, that is a knockout. And now, the Bascule Legion will have to come back out, and if it's not faster than the Meganium, there's no way to get rid of this Tyranitar in time for Gengar to win this game for Baked.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting spot because, like we said, maybe there could be a scenario of the Last Respects now being online. Essentially, Baked sacrificed that Rotom Wash slot in order to be able to guarantee or force a KO with higher base power, right? 150, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at this point because of the 2 KOs onto him, Bake's team. But the problem is, Knockoff is there to be able to finish this off, so this does very much feel like it's a Yuna's game right now, even if there is like a triple protect that comes out from the Gengar. Oh, actually, if I'm not mistaken, it may have been a double protect, but we shall see Synthesis taking advantage of that instead, going for the recovery, confirming to us as well that the Bascule Legion is not faster than it, whilst the Tailwind is set up. 25 hit point survival. Knockoff not going into the Bascule Legion. No, Yuna, it's going into the Mega Gengar's protect.
How many turns are left of the Tailwind? That is the question. It just petered out. And now without clicking the Solar Beam and getting rid of the Bascule Legion, what is Yuna's plan to win this game? Because the Tyranitar, yes, it can deal with the Gengar, but I'm not sure if it can deal with the Bascule Legion, now locked into that resisted Last Respects.
So I think we're in a scenario where Yuna needs to still have Sand available for the 1 hit point Excadrill end game to click Earthquake, and pick up a KO on both the Basque Legion and the Gengar, which they should be able to from this range. So Baked is in a spot where he doesn't necessarily want to pick up a KO straight away in order to allow the sand turns to actually peter out and just pick up KOs, because that extra drill looks like it might be the winning condition for Yuna.
But now how many turns of sand is left? Now the Icy Wind will get the knockout on that Mega Meganium, and Yuna has to rely on one more turn of sand. If not, this is looking so good for that Basque Legion, because that Tyranitar is burned. It does not do as much damage as it usually does, but it still will threaten a knockout on both of these Pokemon. And the Excadrill still has the Focus Sash intact.
Of course it does. Yeah, no, I was clearly thinking about game one. There have been so many back and forths, but you're right. We're in a spot where Excadrill just finishes up the game. We see Bait is aware of it, puts in the forfeit, and we have got a game 3 on our hands. Round 2 has absolutely fired up in an explosive manner of back and forth and great adaptation plays from Yuna there in particular.
I think Yuna really showed us how well a well-positioned Mega Meganium can perform. Even though there is a Mega Gengar, yes, if you can threaten the Gengar with a knockout with any of their partnering Pokemon, then the Meganium really puts in a lot of work. The critical hit Brave Bird into that combo really helped, though, to get yes, because it helped to get rid of that annoying combo for Yuna way faster than if they hadn't got that Brave Bird.
Yeah, and like, let's say,
the
for example...
hit, I mean.
Yeah. And let's say, for example, you do go for the Clangrous Soul. There could be a scenario where, okay, you still need to wait for the Tailwind turns to expire in order for you to be able to move first, but you will be dealing damage. Not as much damage because of the Dragon Fang that got knocked off, but at that point, it's just a wasted slot, and there was so much momentum that Baked lost in that scenario, which sort of felt like he only had 3 Pokemon versus Yuna's 4.
Exactly. The combo did not achieve a single thing in the turns it was on the field.
Yeah.
And Yuna really took advantage of that momentum swing. So here we go into game number 3. Let's see if there are any adaptations from our players here.
Yeah, well, as we do have the reveal of the leads, it's going to be the Game 2 adaptation lead for Yuna in this Game 3. And we got a bit of a change-up, if I'm not mistaken. The Basque Legions come onto the field to say hello next to its other ghastly partner, the Gengar.
And now the question is, can the Corviknight set up that Tailwind for its partners? I think Baked really wants to get rid of this Corviknight because the Tailwind has given him so many issues. We see the Mega immediately come out. I suspect this will be a Shadow Ball and a Wave Crash coming out from Baked here.
Ooh, Tyranitar respecting the Wave Crash potential from the Basque Legion, goes for the Protect and is able to correctly call that out. Gengar goes for the Shadow Ball. It, of course, deals respectable damage, but that's the beauty of Mirror Armor ability on this signature. Corviknight is able to say, you know what, any stat stages that you try to inflict onto me, I will chuck them straight back to you. -1 special defense on the Gengar.
How fast is this Tyranitar? That is the question we have to ask ourselves. Because the Tyranitar is threatened with a knockout from that Wave Crash, but if it is trained in speed, maybe it can outspeed the Basque Legion. I'm not sure if our trainers know, and that is a risk that Baked is now taking if it decides to attack with his Basque Legion.
Yeah, and at this point, I think you have to try to commit. We've seen the interactions before that Basque Legion was at least faster than the Mega Meganium in Tailwind conditions within that Game 2 case. You may, I don't know, I think I've seen Baked time and time again, normally a safe player, but if he identifies there's a scenario where he needs to go on the offensive in order to be able to lock up that game straight away, I could very well see him trying to commit for it.
So the question is all about this speed interaction. We see a Protect from Gengar.
There we go!
And now the Wave Crash is coming through. It's faster than the Tyranitar, and it goes straight for the knockout. No, nothing that Tyranitar could do. It needed to be super fast to outspeed the Basque Legion, but no, it was not able to.
No, and that's why it's so crucial to try to get as much information as you can earlier on in the set in order for you to have more of a clearer path to navigate in terms of your win conditions and this speed interaction scenarios, especially in a game 3 where it all comes down to the wire between both of our trainers. And Sand is on the field still, even though the Tyranitar is not, for 3 more turns. Excadrill is going to be able to outpace the Gengar, especially even without the tailwind that was in effect.
I think the Rotom now looks so safe to switch in here because it takes the ground type attack so well. So the Bastion Legion is saved for another day. And here it comes, double switch from Baked. And we see an adaptation.
Ooh.
No Ko-Oh in this situation. It is the Incineroar. But now the Mirror Armor turning the Intimidate back on the Incineroar. But the Excadrill still getting intimidated. Goes for a super effective Earthquake into the Incineroar and barely not able to deal 50% damage. But here comes the Brave Bird. Goes straight into the Rotom. This is a resisted hit. Rotom shrugging it off.
Oh yeah, 100%, and does have a Citrus Berry as well if it does get procced at some point in the next couple of turns. But most importantly, we have got -1 on the Excadrill in terms of its attack damage. It can try to lock in with a high horsepower, may well just be able to pick up the KO from that range due to the single type targeting versus the spread damage potential, which has the 3/4 damage output. So in this scenario, Yuna needs to be able to just try to pick up a KO ASAP, not allow Bait a bit more room of maneuverability, but that's going to be difficult to navigate around due to the fake out that they have to respect. They go for the protect.
And now, oh, we see a taunt coming out from the Corviknight. Great play, shutting down the potential Will-O-Wisps from the Rotom. But Rotom goes for Volt Switch. Not that shrugging off the taunt, getting in probably Bastion Legion or a Gengar, either of the two in this position. Now, I think Yuna is looking for a situation where she can swap the Rotom back in probably to try to stall out this turns of Sand, and there we see the Flare Blitz just straight up getting the knockout on the Corviknight.
Yeah, and that's why Incineroar is such a good bring in this set, especially because you've got so much going for it. Intimidate, lowering the attack of the Excadrill and Tyranitar. You've got the super effective Flare Blitz targeting that Mega Meganium in particular, revealed as the 4th Mon, of course, as well as the Corviknight. This is looking so good. Como-O was absolute dead weight last time and doesn't seem to be the case as we've got one more turn of Sand remaining.
But now the Excadrill can go for an Earthquake next to this Mega Meganium. And if Meganium goes for a Solar Beam into any of the slots, if the Rotom comes in, then that means a knockout on either of these Pokemon. So Baked staying in, he's willing to sacrifice both of his Pokemon here. If this Earthquake lands, no, goes for the Aqua Jet into the Excadrill. Excadrill does hang on, but will get up this high horsepower into the Incineroar.
Yeah,
getting a knockout.
Yeah, this is quite detrimental as well because we know that it's going to be locked in this case, so I just wanted to make sure that I could get any sort of damage off before, understandably, being felled by the high horsepower into Solar Beam combo, wombo. Now all of a sudden, bringing the game to a 2 versus 2 scenario. And like we said, Aqua Jet, so crucial there. You're able to just whittle down the HP substantially on that Excadrill, but most importantly, break the Focus Sash.
And now this Excadrill will go down to any hit from either the Gengar or from that Rotom. So the question is here, this is a positional play. Will Gengar just straight up go for the Shadow Ball into that Excadrill to get rid of it and keep itself safe? That might give Meganium an opportunity to go for a Weather Ball into Gengar, hoping to get a knockout. But I think Yuna is in a very tough position, losing speed advantage here.
Oh, 100%. And they've got to try to like get the call correct at this point. And Baker needs to make sure that he doesn't throw in this scenario because you have got the speed advantage. You threaten direct KOs onto both the Extra as well as the Mega Millennium just with your Gengar alone. So you're just going to want to be able to not force a scenario where you're 2 versus 1 versus 1 versus 2, if that makes sense.
Oh, but we see a protect from Gengar. If Yuna's read into this, they might be. Oh yeah,
Oh, here we go.
that a double protect from Yuna, and calling out the protects from the. Oh, here we see Yuna actually went for the Weather Ball play into the Gengar. I think that was a clever touch, but now the Excadrill is vulnerable to getting knocked out by a Shadow Ball. The Rotom cannot really touch the Meganium, so Baked needs to preserve his Gengar to get rid of the Meganium if they want to win the game. But
Yeah.
that Excadrill cannot touch the Rotom, so this is like a Mexican standoff type of situation. The Excadrill knocked out, but was this a bait from Yuna? Yuna now has the opportunity to go for that Weather Ball into the Gengar. Will it be enough to get the knockout? That is the question.
Now we're going to have to see if it is whether Ball is going to be powered and boosted by the fire that's not available due to the Mega Soul. Not enough, 18 hit point survival, and we've got this set all wrapped up. Baked is going to be able to finish this one off with an ever so true Sludge Bomb into the Mega Meganium. It is quad weak to it, and what a way to go about it. Unfortunately for Yuna, not going to be able to win this out. Did an incredible job, but Baked is undefeated. 2-0 moving into this tournament.
Incredible set by both of these trainers. Yuna adjusting in game number 2 and pulling it back. But Baked, you realize that even though he is a Como admirer, as it's said there on the title, the Como did nothing for him in this game. So leaving it behind, bringing it in that Incineroar, and I gotta say, it did get a knockout on the Corviknight.
Yeah.
And it put on a lot more pressure than that Como did. So great adaptation by Baked in this game number 3.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that's easily said as well for Yuna's side. The fact that they identified game 2, they really needed to change up the lead. They had so much of a disadvantage with that Meganium being led. We get it, in order to be able to check the Rotom Wash, which surely has to come to the Sand matchup, right? And be a good threat, a disruptive threat as well against the Corviknight. But you need to be able to like measure when to bring it. They did that so well in game 2. Game 3 though, we saw the fact that Como, like you said, Marcus, it was just doing nothing. It literally did nothing. Unfortunate because of the crit, obviously, game 2. But the Incineroar bring was so good in so many different ways that it just made the most sense. And I was kind of surprised we didn't even see it earlier. It just seems like Baked was feeling like, okay, well, I didn't need to bring it right now. I wanted to see if I could go down the route of Como. It's so good into the Sand option, right, that Yuna has. But in this case, it was all about disruption and supporting the Gengar, Mega Gengar, and the Basculegion. They are the main damage sweepers that you need to be able to essentially allow room to pick up the necessary KOs to get the job done.
And the Basculegion, even though it's Choice Scarf, it should outspeed most things.
Yep.
Baked realized he needed to click Aqua Jet in a situation where Excadrill was in Sand, because Excadrill in Sand is faster than the Choice Scarf Basculegion. And locking into that priority attack just to get rid of that Focus Sash, that was the win condition for Baked. And breaking that Focus Sash meant that it would go down to 1 attack from the Gengar. And Gengar hanging on from that Weather Ball in the end, it was so clutch. If Gengar had still had that special defense drop from the Mirror Armor that it got previously earlier in the turn, or early in the game, it would have gone down. But Baked, swapping it out, resetting, coming in just at the perfect moment, and playing to their full ability and making a great game here for us in the Alpensee first anniversary tour.
Yeah, exactly that. And what a way to just start off this tournament with so much hype, as well as great matches between all of our trainers we've been able to feature thus far. Baked Now 2-0, one of our undefeated. Still early on in the tournament, of course. We've got a total of 128 trainers going ahead and trying to combat a total of 7 Swiss rounds before we figure out who will make it through to the top 32 cut phase of this tournament. But make sure that you are keeping your refreshments going and all of the excitement and pump of I'd just say action that we've been able to feature with champions, with this tournament, as we're going to go ahead and cut to a short break. Marcus, which way are you, Marcus? You're this way? Yeah, Marcus and myself, we will be going for a break as well. Unfortunately, this is our time up for today, but we have absolutely loved it. It has been fun. I'm not sure if you agree, Marcus, as well, so far.
I agree, Costa.
Oh, do you?
And oh yeah, I agree. And I'm really happy that I got to share this time with you and all the viewers right there at home or on the bus on your way to work on a Sunday. You should not be doing that. Get another job. Go home, get on the couch, and watch the entire stream of Alpensee first anniversary. There will be so many great casters. Not just us, obviously. We peaked early, but trust me, it's worth watching still, and keeping on track with all the great casters yet to come and all the great battles. This tournament has just started, but we've already seen so much great gameplay. I cannot wait to see where it ends up.
100%. And with that being said, we're going to love you, leave you, give you a couple of moments of a break, and we'll be bringing back our other lovely casters on the field. So take care, and we'll catch you